Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to INSS special podcast on the occasion of Israel's 76th Independence Day. Independence Day holds every year a special meaning for every Jew, whether inside or beyond Israel's borders. In its essence, it is a reminder what the existence of the State of Israel really stands for, a safe home for all Jews. Yet, 7 months after the October 7th massacre, in which more than 1,200 Israeli citizens were murdered and raped, after tens of thousands were evacuated from their homes with no real option of returning at the moment, both in the south and in the north, and with 132 Israeli hostages still held captive in the dark tunnels of Hamas in Gaza, it seems that this day of independence, which originally should have been celebrated as a day of national pride, is mixed with much more complexity and sadness. The idea of a safe home was challenged in the most tragic way. 76 years of Israeli independence. We asked today in our program, what is the true meaning of independence in the context of this difficult year when so many citizens feel abandoned by their own country? How to ensure that the feeling of abandonment does not repeat itself in a second time? And we'll also try and assess the current situation in Gaza, particularly in Rafah, and chances for a hostage deal which seems to be moving away from any solution. We will discuss Hezbollah's attacks in the north and Israel's constant paralysis regarding a real solution for tens of thousands of displaced Israelis who strive to go back home, and of course, the current state of affairs with Iran, the Shiite axis, and possible scenarios for an alliance between Israel and countries in the region on that end. I'm Adi Kantor, and in order to analyze these issues in depth, I'm honored to have next to me in the INSS studio today Major General Reserve Tamir Hayman, Executive Director of the Institute for National Security Studies and former Chief of IDF Intelligence Directorate. Tamir, thank you very much for joining me in this very important talk today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tamir, Israel remembers and commemorates the fallen soldiers of the wars and the victims of actions of terrorism. This year, after the massacre of October 7th, we're talking about 822 civilians, 716 soldiers that are added to this tragic list. In 24 hours, Israel will celebrate its 76th independence. And I really want to ask you as first question about the dissonance. How do you capture this dissonance between this tragic day, sad day, and in 24 hours, Independence Day? After the massacre of October 7th, what is independence for you?
I think that's the same story that comes over and over again in the history of Israel. It seems like independence has its costs, and costs we keep on paying the costs for being a sovereign state here in the Middle East. Today or this year it's special. It will be very hard to make that transformation. It is always hard to create that division between the sorrow, grief, and the happiness of the Yom HaAtzmaut. But this year it will be more difficult to do. But basically, today we should observe and look of the positive elements of the Israeli society and resilience, and the way that we came out of the atrocity of the 7th of October. And I don't think any nation in the world would have performed better after such a catastrophe, such a failure in all element of the Israeli defense forces, from intelligence to operation. But we succeeded to overcome the tragedy, to see forward. And the IDF in the tactical level made tremendous success in the tactical level.
We will talk about the strategies later on, yes.
Yes, so I think that's the story of Israel, from low points to high elevated morale and solidarity. That's the story of Israel.
Tens of thousands of Israelis are at the moment displaced from their homes, south and north as well. They feel, 76 years after the independence war, they feel abandoned by the state of Israel. What can be said to them on a day like this?
Very little smart things, but to provide some form of a hope, I think we should divide the question into the north and separate it from the south. I think in the south, the Israel exit strategy or Israel's strategy towards what happens in the south really has some form of a solution. We are going to destroy the capability of Hamas. Right now, as we speak, Hamas has no practical infiltration capability that can duplicate what happens in the 7th of October. So basically, from security level, security aspects alone, it is safe to return back the civilians to the Gazan envelope, kibbutzim, and all of the rest of the cities there. In the north, it's more difficult because the threat of Hezbollah, although eroded in the tactical level, it still poses a dramatic strategic threat. And right now the war is focused on Gaza, and we are maintaining constant friction with Hezbollah, but that will not solve the problem. That will not provide the Israeli government the legitimacy to say to the civilians, go back to your home.
At the moment, they're not willing.
And they will not, they're not willing. So it's a more difficult question to answer regarding North.
Now, after you've talked about the North, I think, so let's go back to Gaza and Hamas and what's going on there at the moment for our audience, just to hear your assessment about the current state of affairs. The question of Rafah, the question of the hostage deal, it seems to be further and further away from us. What is your assessment regarding the current situation? Is there still a chance to reach some kind of a deal? What are the parameters? Rafah and Jabaliya, we hear that the IDF is now entering places that it already has been in and returns now. Is there any way of somehow ending what is happening in Gaza at the moment?
Yes, I'm surprised. I think the re-boosting of momentum in terms of operational capability provides some form of a potential for a exit strategy from the war. Practically, we are dealing right now, what we are seeing in Gaza are two aspects of the same war. On Rafah, there are two crucial problems that the IDF deals with it right now. One is what we call the Philadelphia route. It is the border between Egypt and Gaza and the Rafah crossing. We need to somehow block that border in order to avoid the rebuilding of Hamas capability.
And shipments of ammunition, of course.
So that's is being done right now, but it should be done in a more coordinated manner with Egypt. It seems like it was not really settled to the last dot. Those statements from yesterday really things that we should look. I hope that it will be mended soon because it's crucial to do that, but with cooperation with Egypt. Second is the 4th battalions of Hamas that are still intact in Rafah.
And shooting towards Israel.
And also have the potential capability of infiltration, like the rest of Gaza doesn't have. They still have. So right now, the IDF is acting in 3 of those 4 battalions, and I think that will ensure that we will block on any kind of that threat. In Jabaliya, it's a whole different story. In Jabaliya, we have already destroyed the Jabaliya battalion. But after being destroyed, as we said before, it breaks into terror groups and guerrilla capabilities. And right now, we are keep on
Was it expected, by the way?
Sorry?
Was it expected
It
before?
was totally expected.
It was clear that the IDF will return at some point.
Yes, up to now, we have launched 5 brigade scale raids to the northern part of Gaza Strip, to the Gaza city and vicinities, because we knew that it will break to insurrections, it will break to terror groups, so you need to return back once and again. But the main issue that along that course you need to create some form of an alternative a civilian address to Hamas, to create some kind of a competition, something that may erode the credibility and the authority of Hamas towards the civilians, because he gets the strength. Hamas gets the oxygen, the inscriptions, the manpower from the civilian, and the civilian will lose faith on him and will go drive to another pole. That's on the Israeli strategy interest, and that is unfortunately not decided yet. And it's crucial right now in Rafah crossing and in Jabaliya in Gaza after we resume.
So how close are we, if at all, to a hostage deal? If we indeed reach some kind of an alternative address,
that's the potential.
Hamas will never agree to a deal.
That's the potential. The potential is that we can offer a deal that they cannot refuse, because we have renewed the operational pressure. In my point of view, because we have taken from them another essence that they can lose, and because they see the trajectory as something negative, opposing what happened a month ago when we just stood still and he just could have waited for the war to end. It
could have happened actually months ago. What is happening now?
Right, exactly. And it should have been a month ago. We just lost time. But right now, after resuming the operational pressure, we can be generous towards them. Generous from a posture of a winning
in
element.
Quotation. This is.
Okay, we have penetrated, we have destroyed your capabilities to this level. We are willing to withdraw, to stop the war in exchange for a grand one hostage deal.
Yeah.
I think that's the next strategy needed, not a break-up deal for sections. Gradually, but an all...
0-1.
Yes, and that I think that's potential right now.
And Nasrallah is looking from the north, and what is he saying to himself at the moment? What are we getting closer or further away from a total war in the north?
Part of him wishes that the war will end. And it's going on too long. He have lost almost 400 of his top
commanders,
not just commanders, operatives, etc., etc. He has lost the infrastructure in the north. The war is creating a rift between the Lebanese civilians' sentiment and Hezbollah, and it's becoming more and more difficult to convince the Lebanese why they are paying the price.
They see also what is happening in Gaza, and the IDF says all the time, if you engage in a war, this is what's going to happen.
That's one element.
Does it play a role?
That's one element, but the other element is why should the Lebanese think, why are we paying prices for Palestinians? That's not Lebanese interest. You must understand that 130,000 out of them are evacuated also from their homes, and they are not living in a 5-star hotel in Tel Aviv like the ones that we have evacuated. So they are living in a very, very dramatic, difficult problems. That's something that he thinks he wishes to end. But in the other element, he will probably will declare it as a kind of achievement, the fact that he forced Israel to evacuate civilians. He connected the Shiite axis with the Palestinian resistance into one front, and he is the one that paid all the prices, carried all the burden, and he will present that as a strategic success of the resistance of Hezbollah. But deep inside, I think there's a great potential that if the war ends in the south, he will cease fire and he will maintain the withdrawal. He will maintain the withdrawal of Radwan forces in order not to initiate a second round of violence.
Very interesting. Let's talk now about a question, just one before the last. The entity that stands behind Hezbollah, and I'm referring, of course, to Iran and the Shiite axis. A little less than a month ago, Israel was attacked. It was an historical evening, I think that none of us will forget, by Iran for the first time with hundreds of drones. What is your assessment with regards to what Israel needs, how Israel needs to operate towards Iran? What are the chances for a regional alliance? I know that it's been a lot discussed in the media also. What needs to happen in order for this alliance?
First of all, to sum things up, it was a tactical success in terms of the strategic level.
Yeah.
I doubt it if it was a success. Because from the strategical point of view, the fact that Iran believes to be superior, to believe to have the ability to retaliate against specific deterrence by United States and Israel, and they are still defying those don'ts and those threats and still act, they will consider it as a grand success in terms of strategic.
Yeah.
And
This is the narrative that they tell to themselves.
It is not a narrative. We should believe them. They are convinced that this is the truth.
Sure.
They are superior, and they will. And it's bad in terms of the deterrence equation between right now. In order to looking to the future, to the future strategy with Iran. First of all, regional alliances are the answer, because that threatens Iran, that narrows their freedom of maneuver, the freedom of action, and that kind of Israeli integration with UAE, with Saudi, creating some form of a defense treaty monitored and supervised by United States. That's the nightmare in terms of the regional strategy of Iran. In terms of the nuclear strategy, I believe we should take a totally different route. The route that we went along till this far brought us to a threshold Iranian state in terms of nuclear capability. The alternative route is either a deal that will roll back Iranians' nuclear capability, or either go for an operational activity, a strike, whatever, in order to eliminate that threat. Maintaining the course we are now having will lead us to a nuclear Iran.
With the current Israeli government, do you think such an alliance is possible?
That depends on one crucial decision. We should agree, Israel government should agree to accept some form of a reformed Palestinian Authority as the next ruling entity in Gaza. That will be highly, that will be blessed by the Gulf states, and that will ensure their cooperation in the reconstruction of Gaza, and that will lead to the normalization with Israel, between Israel and Saudi. But as long we are keep delaying that decision, I'm saying delaying, but because I believe that eventually we will reach. There's no alternative address. Nobody will come volunteering to rebuild Gaza without a Palestinian Authority, and nobody will bring the money needed without a Palestinian Authority. But we are now stretching time. We are now prolonging it, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
It is very hard in terms of political structure of the Israeli government. But looking forward in a positive manner, if it will be done, I think it will change the whole region in the Middle East.
And with this, in this notion, I'd like to finish also the podcast. We are celebrating 76 years of independence. What do you wish for the Israeli society for its 77th anniversary independence? If we have such an optimistic insight, what do you wish for the public?
The solidarity that we saw after the 8th of October will be the prominent sentiment in the Israeli society. To see the strength of the Israeli society, to see how people refer to their brothers as truly members of their own family, sacrificing for them in order to save them. Yeah. To see how we fundamentally perceive Israel as one entity with our own personal identity, and I wish for us that we will not return to the dividing parts that tear us apart during all the year 2023, and we could see some alternative paths towards something different, something with fresh perspective of leadership in all sections of Israel that will take that eager, that ambitious, and will make it a reality in the
Very well said, Major General Reserve Tamir Hayman, Executive Director of INSS. Thank you so much for this, and thank you to the audience, and see you next time.